Well, welcome to the True Man Podcast. This is an invitation to radical reconstruction of a man's masculine heart and soul in a place of safe community where we dare to ask questions deep seated inside a man and explore ways to help you become a better man, a better son, a better dad, and a better spouse. Well, welcome to the True Man Podcast. Again, as I always am, especially in this season of the birth of Christ. I'm so grateful to have you here with me today. And if you're listening to this, I'd appreciate your help on a couple things. First, if you would go out to my webpage, and of course, there will be a link to that in the show notes, truemanlifecoaching.com. There's a couple of things that I would like you to do for me. Midway through the homepage on my website is a new sign up for the True Man Inner Circle. This is our new newsletter, which we're going to be kicking off at the first of the year if I can get everything to work properly. Hey, if you know me, you know tech can be a challenge, but would love for you to be a part of that. This is just going to give you some bite-sized chunks of things that we're doing outside of the podcast on a weekly basis to help keep you motivated every Monday morning. The second is you can go to the book page of my website. Hey, it's a Christmas season. If you got a man in your life that likes to read a little bit and would like to learn a little bit more about what Christ has to say about the masculine heart and how you can improve on your masculine heart, well, go out and grab my book, True Man, True Ways, a Roadmap of Discovery to the Masculine Heart. And of course, you're listening to this podcast. If you appreciate this podcast, what I would appreciate you do, just pick up your mobile phone right now and forward this on to a friend and get them listening to it. And maybe you can have it as part of your discussion. Always something interesting going on in the True Man community, and that will be no different as we move forward into 2026. An amazing amount of great things that I'm working on right now. But let's talk about something, a question that popped into my head here a couple of weeks ago. And so, you know, when something pops into my head and I write it down, well, heck, I have to talk about it. And I'm a little bit more, thinking about the year behind me and the year ahead this time of year. And every year towards this tail end of December, I always pause and really take an inventory of my life. Where am I? What have I set out to accomplish? Have I accomplished it? Who helped me shape that journey is one thing that I like to look at. And this year, something just felt a little bit different. And I'm still going through a little bit of that, not just reflective, but maybe some disruption here, like something deeper has been stirring inside of me, something more than the usual evaluation of goals and outcomes. Maybe it's, the changing season that I find myself in my home. Maybe it's the shift in direction and purpose that I sense God calling me into. There's a lot going on right now. Or maybe it's just simply that Christmas has a way of slowing a man down if he'll let it and opening his eyes again to see the sacredness of people. Because as I'm thinking about things recently, this question came into my mind, and here's the question. If you knew God was putting someone in front of you right now who could change the trajectory of your life, how would you treat them? Would you slow down enough to see them? Would you listen long enough to understand the assignment? Would you be humble enough to receive what they bring? Or would you chalk it up to mere coincidence, shrug, and move on with your day? That question just been kind of circling around me here for a little bit. And the truth is, most men today, we move fast, too fast, to recognize the very people that God sends to build us up, strengthen us, even challenge us, or even rescue us might be right in front of us. We're in the busiest generation humanity has ever experienced. Fast-paced, overloaded, always rushing, always distracted. And because of that, I don't always see where we see people anymore. I think I've missed a few in my life that maybe would have made a difference. But Christmas tells us a different story. The coming of Christ breaks the noise. The birth of Christ slows the world down a little bit, doesn't it? And the story of one man, Simeon, shows us what that looks like to wait, listen, prepare, and recognize divine appointments when they appear. Now, let's be honest. Most men, or is it fair to say that most men today struggle to pay attention long enough to genuinely hear another person's story? Sad to say, I think that might be true. We nod, we smile, we listen halfway, but our minds are often somewhere else, aren't they? We're thinking about the next meeting, yes. The next project, they keep coming at me. The next problem, oh my gosh, is this endless? The next thing we have to carry on our shoulders. It's weighty, isn't it? But here's the uncomfortable truth, I think. If you don't slow down long enough to see people, you'll never recognize the ones that God sent to change your life. And that's not just a productivity issue, by the way. It's a spiritual issue. All throughout Scripture, God advances his will through people. Unlikely, ordinary, sometimes inconvenient people. Moses and Aaron and David had Jonathan, and Ruth had Naomi. Paul had Barnabas. Mary had Elizabeth. And Jesus, well, of course, he had the disciples. And you? Who has God been sending you that you haven't slowed down enough to notice? Let me ask you some real questions here. Questions that I think men avoid because they cut a little close to home. Do you rush through conversations like people are interruptions instead of assignments? Do you treat strangers as obstacles or potential blessings? Do you listen to understand or just long enough to reply? Are you moving so fast that you're blind to the very relationship God is trying to give you? How about this one? If God whispered, "Pay attention to this one," would you even hear it? We all love divine breakthroughs, but we forget something. God often delivers breakthroughs through people, flesh and blood human beings with stories, with scars, with wisdom, and with purpose. And those people don't arrive waving neon signs, do they? I mean, they just don't. They arrive quietly, humbly, unexpectedly. Just like a baby in a manger. Now think about the Christmas story itself. The Jews waited centuries for a Messiah, a warrior, a king, a political liberator. And what they got was a newborn. How about that? No army, no fame, just a cry in the night. Many missed him because he came wrapped in the ordinary. How many divine appointments have we missed in our lives because we expected them to look bigger, louder, and more impressive? We expect mentors to arrive with a title. We expect life-changing relationships to come with obvious importance. We expect wisdom to come from the people we already admire. But what if the man God sent is the one you're tempted to overlook? What if the opportunity that could transform your business or your family or your spiritual life looks unimpressive at first glance? The conversation you brushed off yesterday was actually the doorway to new strength, new clarity, new purpose. You know, Christmas reminds us that God hides greatness in small beginnings. Are you looking close enough to see it? You know, most men skip over, a lot of people skip over Simeon when they read the Christmas story. He's not flashy, he's not famous. It feels like he got dropped down from the middle of nowhere in the Bible. He's not a warrior or a prophet in a dramatic sense, and Luke describes him in 9 simple words: righteous and devout, waiting for the consolation of Israel. You see, this man waited his entire life for one moment to hold the Messiah. Not to preach about him, not to build a platform around him, just hold him. Simeon had trained his eyes, trained his heart, trained his faith to recognize God's movement. He didn't stumble into his assignment. In fact, he prepared for it. And when Mary and Joseph walked into the temple, hundreds of other people were there. But only Simeon saw what God was doing. Everyone else saw a poor young couple with a baby. Simeon saw a king. Everyone else saw an ordinary child. Simeon saw salvation. Everyone else kept walking. Simeon walked toward. Why? Because he lived with expectancy. He lived with sensitivity to God's voice. And he lived with the kind of patience that refuses to push past the holy. You see, Simeon didn't miss the moment because he wasn't living a rushed life. He was living a prepared life. So let's ask a hard question here. Are you living prepared or just busy? Because you can't be both. Now, if God sent a life-changing person into your day today, would you have the emotional, spiritual, or even physical margin to notice? Or would you get the same treatment most people give us? Half attention, distracted listening, shallow engagement, and a quick, I gotta run. Men today are overcommitted, overstimulated, overwhelmed. We've substituted connection with speed. We've replaced relationship with efficiency, and we've traded community for convenience. But you know, divine appointments don't show up on your calendar. You have to be smart enough, have enough wisdom enough to receive them. And here's the confronting question here. If God wanted to redirect your life today, would your schedule allow it? If not, something probably needs to change. Think back over your life. The mentors who sharpened you, the friends who stood by you, the people who challenged you, stretched you, or even annoyed you, yet shaped you. Did you expect any of them? Did you see any of those moments coming? You know, most of the people who have changed my life didn't come into my story with fireworks and fanfare. Some came briefly, some came unexpectedly, and some showed up in seasons when I didn't know I needed them. And some, truthfully, I almost missed because I was tired, distracted, preoccupied, or simply too focused on my own agenda. And that makes me wonder, how many more life-changing relationships have I accidentally walked past? How many did I dismiss, because I judged too quickly? How many did I ignore because they arrived at an inconvenient time? And how many did I miss because I didn't slow down enough to hear their story? You know, your future greatness is often connected to someone God places in your path. Not accidentally, but strategically. The question is, are you paying attention? Now, you probably don't remember the wonder of meeting Santa Claus as a kid. I don't. But if you're a father like me, you remember the look on your children's faces when you took them to meet Santa. The awe, the nervous laughter, the vulnerability, the belief that something magical might be standing in front of them. You know, kids have a built-in ability. Quite candidly, we lose as adults. They expect good things to happen. They watch closely. They believe something special could happen at any moment. They're not cynical. They're not rushed. They aren't hardened. And here's the heart of all this. They're open. And you know, I think Christmas calls men back into that posture. Not childness behavior, childlikeness behavior. The ability to slow down, the humility to receive, the curiosity to notice, the faith to believe that God still moves in unexpected ways. And if you don't cultivate that posture, you're going to miss the miracle standing right in front of you. Men, I encourage you to pray for a breakthrough, pray for wisdom, pray for direction, and pray for opportunity. But often God answers those prayers by sending a person. Could that person be standing in front of you right now? The mentor you needed, the friend who sees your blind spots, the brother who challenges your excuses, the connection who opens a door, the leader who speaks truth you didn't want to hear, but they did it anyway, and it pushed you on through. The stranger whose story awakens something in your own. So I think here's the real challenge. Are you actually open to the way that God wants to answer your prayer, or only open to the way you prefer He answer it? You know, Simeon didn't tell God how the Messiah should appear. He simply stayed ready when he did. That's what men need today and must recover. Not control, not certainty, but readiness. Being in the ready position. Now, these aren't soft questions I'm about to ask you. These are questions that cut through the noise and hit the heart. Do I treat people like interruptions or like God-given assignments? Am I living in such a hurry that I miss the very relationship that could change my life? Do I believe that God still sends divine appointments into my path? If He did today, would I recognize them or rush right past them? Do I listen to people, or do I merely wait for them to finish talking? Who has God already placed in my life that I need to honor, appreciate, and learn from? Where do I need to slow down so I can actually see what God is doing? Do I carry myself with humility of a man who expects God's movement, or the arrogance of a man who thinks he already knows the plan? Have I become too busy to be transformed? And finally, who might God send next? And I will be prepared when they come. See, Christmas isn't all about nostalgia. It's about awareness. It's about the God who came quietly and sent his beloved Son into the world and still comes quietly into your life. The world missed him then. Many men miss him now, not because he's hard to find, but because we're too distracted to look. But go read about Simeon. Simeon didn't miss him because Simeon lived with eyes wide open. Men today desperately need to reclaim this posture. Slow down, listen, look people in the eye, hear their story, see their value, honor their presence, and ask God, what are you doing here? And why this person? Why today? Because, the truth is sobering. You never know when the next conversation could be the one that changes the entire trajectory of your life. I've had it happen to me on multiple occasions. God still sends people. God still orchestrates divine appointments. God still chooses the humble, the unexpected, and of course, the ordinary. And if he puts someone in front of you today, your response matters. Will you ignore them or embrace the gift? Will you rush past or will you recognize the moment? Will you live distracted or will you live like Simeon, prepared, attentive, ready, and expectant? This Christmas, may we be men who don't just celebrate the birth of Christ, but men who learn from the way he came quietly, unexpectedly, and through people. God's greatest blessings often come wrapped in the ordinary moments. Please don't miss them. Thank you for being here on this True Man podcast. I thought this was an appropriate question and podcast to do given the Christmas season that we're in. There's a lot of questions that I threw at you today, and I think asking questions is good. I think taking those questions to God in prayer is better. That's how we gain wisdom and knowledge, and we begin to learn how to hear his voice. Well, thank you for listening to the True Man Podcast. Hope you appreciated this podcast. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can always send me an email at mike@truemanlifecoaching.com, or you can go to my website. You'll see my calendar on there, and you can connect to me that way. And in addition to that, as I begin to wrap up here today, please go out to my website, truemanlifecoaching.com, and in the show notes, and I will have a link to the True Man Inner Circle, that great newsletter that's going to be starting up here. It's going to be really short and simple, but we're just going to give you some great ideas to get your week kickstarted and grow closer to God, which I hope you'll do. Take time this Christmas season to get closer to God. Thank you for listening. God bless you. And as we always end with here on the True Man Podcast, please just don't make this an ordinary day. Go out and make this your very best day ever. Blessings to you and your family.